today's topic is I get better at disappointment.
Yeah, we're going to talk about disappointment. So, we've talked about a lot of emotional struggles thus far. So, I don't think we've covered
Yes.
this topic yet, but I think it's going to be important to address because it is so prevalent and it's something that a lot
Yeah.
of people go through. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, to start us off, we want to define the topic of discussion. Each of us will share our personal definition of the word or the phrase. So, for me, I put down, what disappointment is feeling sad or let down when something does not go my way or as I expect it to go, essentially. What about you, Phaedra? What does it mean to be disappointed?
Um, I put down it really I feel like it encompasses like it's like a feeling that comes from being let down.
Hmm.
So I think the root of it is sadness. But sometimes it manifests as like anger or hurt or even betrayal at times. So
Hmm.
I don't know. It's a I just feel like it's a compact sort of feeling or state of being.
Okay. So it can kind of include some other emotions underneath the surface.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Well, of course, we want to give you the Webster or the dictionary definition of the word as well. So, what the dictionary says is disappointment is sad or displeased because someone or something has failed to fulfill one's hopes or expectations. So, someone or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it kind of does tend to have this underlying like expression of sadness at the
Yeah.
fact that something didn't go your way. So, why is this
Yeah.
important? Why do you think we need to recognize how to improve our relationship with disappointment?
Man, I think it's very important, just like most emotions. I think it's important to be able to like recognize what it is so that we can articulate it and get our need met if that's possible at all. But disappointment is one of those things where I think a lot of times because it can manifest as hurt, or I'm sorry, because it can manifest as anger.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's especially important to be able to really identify and articulate like what is really going on, because most of the time when we just let it be anger, we don't normally get our need met. It doesn't. We come out as very defensive, and it's hard to be heard and get our need met when it looks like anger.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, when you don't even have an awareness of it being an emotion that you're experiencing, it could come across as something else. So, just being
Yeah.
able to recognize what it is you're feeling and call it disappointment as opposed to
Correct.
anger or frustration
Correct.
or hurt or whatever other emotion that you think it is the start of getting better at how you experience it. Why I think it's
Right.
important is because so many people go out of their way, like they go to great lengths to
Mm-hmm.
avoid experiencing disappointment. And
Yes.
it's really an impossible task because if you do anything in life, you're going to experience disappointment at some point. Something is going to disappoint you. And I also find that some people go out of their way to avoid disappointing other people to
Yeah.
great lengths, which leads
Yeah.
to a lot of people pleasing behaviors or like just inauthenticity and like you're just trying not to have somebody else experience a very normal, natural emotion that comes with life.
Yes.
So that can create stress too. Like it can be really
Mm-hmm.
stressful to make it your mission to avoid either experiencing disappointment or disappointing other people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. I know we can go to the next one if you're ready. Like some of the consequences of not doing it.
Yeah, let's talk about
Um,
it.
one of the things that I was researching, I've been researching this for a little bit. There's a podcast that I listen to that my therapist actually recommended. But on one of the four of the episodes, they're talking about codependency,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the ways that codependency can show up is in people pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's avoidance. It can be an avoidance of disappointing people.
Mm-hmm.
So because I'm so afraid of disappointing people, I'm looking to make sure I can't be authentic. And you mentioned, well, that's one of the things that you mentioned is it's almost like living in this false self.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't be who I am. I can't say how I really feel. Maybe I can't even identify how I really feel. Essentially, like I'm lying to myself and other people,
Right.
right? Because I'm trying to avoid this feeling or this the consequences that may come from this feeling.
Right, because you want to live up to the expectation that somebody else has of you,
Yeah,
or you just
for
want to see
sure.
people happy. Like it comes down to where like sometimes I have to have a conversation with clients about disappointment and like say, is disappointment allowed? Like, are you allowed to experience it, and are others allowed to experience it? Because going out of your way to avoid it is essentially saying like this is not an allowable experience, and
That's good.
also like over exaggerating like what happens after you get disappointed. Like, okay, you're disappointed,
Mm-hmm.
and then what? Like, that's not the
Yeah,
worst thing in the world. It's not the end of the world.
yeah,
It's not so devastating that you can't overcome it. But so many people treat it like that. Like, this is just
yeah,
not allowed to happen in my life or
yeah,
the lives of others. And so, yeah, it can just set you on this pattern of behavior to where you don't even know who you are anymore. Like all you're doing is showing
yeah,
up in a way that you think other people expect you to, because
yeah,
you just don't want to let them down, or you just don't want them to be disappointed in you.
yeah. I feel like we need to go back for a moment and like this is that preacher me coming out. We need to sit with that.
Okay.
Is it allowed?
Yes.
Like that's good,
Yeah.
right? Like have you asked yourself like is this am I allowed to be disappointed? Are they allowed to be
Hmm.
disappointed? Because we might say yes, but our behaviors are saying no,
Right. Yep. Exactly.
right? Cuz we're doing everything we can do to prevent disappointment
Hmm.
at any cost. In fact, sometimes it can turn you into an enabler
Yeah, yeah.
because
Well, to that
you're
point of the codependency
yeah,
piece, right, where you're enabling behavior.
correct,
Yeah,
correct,
yeah, and that has to be the first question, right? Sitting with the idea
yeah,
that this is an allowable experience, and even a welcomed experience for that matter, which is really hard to
ooh,
do because
that's
I
hard.
mean, who really wants to welcome disappointment? Who wants to be disappointed?
Not me,
Like, just sign me up.
right?
But it doesn't matter if you want to or not. It's going to come to you, whether you invite it
Yeah,
or not. So to put it to make it your mission to go out of your way to avoid disappointment is just a futile mission, as they say. Um, so kind of like the one of the first steps to getting better, I think, is learning to accept disappointment as a part of life. Like it is going to come to
yeah,
you, but then also understanding that you get through it. Like it doesn't last forever, right?
yeah,
It comes and then it goes, but you can stay stuck in it for longer than you intended to, if you don't have the skills to kind of learn how to cope with it.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree with that. I'm sitting here thinking about just as a note to parents too. Oftentimes we don't want our kids to struggle and be disappointed, and that can cause a lot of anger and resentment towards people on behalf of our kids,
Mm-hmm.
or a lot of stress on parents because we trying to you know put our kids in this bubble away from feeling those emotions, but especially
Mm-hmm.
disappointment. And like you said, it's oftentimes like it's unavoidable,
Yeah.
even if it shows up in the other parent disappointing the child or you disappointing the child,
Right.
which can really lead to some really entitled children if we don't let them experience this feeling.
Yeah.
They don't know how to cope.
Exactly.
They
Yeah.
they they grow up to be adults that don't know how to cope.
Yep.
So what are some?
Well,
So what are I? Yeah, go ahead.
we want to get into how to cope, but I want to address that point you made about parents and kids real
Okay.
quick, because when you said, this reminds me of something, I was just having a conversation with someone about when you said parents wanting to, um, in a sense, protect their children from disappointment.
Yeah.
I had to ask somebody about this when they were doing it, not for their children, but for their partner, and trying to kind of help them through things. And I said, what you may call protection is actually enabling. And you mentioned enabling earlier, because you are enabling them to continue not to do something for themselves, right? Or be able to kind of stand
Yeah.
up and learn how to deal with problems as they come up. And so being
Yeah.
of that mind frame of like allowing them to see like disappointment is going to happen. And there used to be this show my kids would watch when they were little, and I liked it too. It was called Yo Gabba Gabba. And one of the songs on
Mm-hmm.
there was like, you can't always get what you want. Like that was the song they were singing. So I would sing it to the kids, and we would listen to the CD and everything. And it's like, it's true. You can't always get what you want. And so
Yeah.
understanding that is where you kind of can get into a place of starting to accept disappointment in your life, because you can't always get what you want. And so, yeah, I recommend check out that Yo Gabba Gabba. They had some bops back in the day, but let's,
But you
yeah.
you but the hard part about that is we live in this society where it's contradicting facts or,
Mhm.
sayings, because we know you can't always get what you want, but we grow up hearing the world is your oyster, and you can whatever you set your mind to, you can do it. And especially depending on the culture you raised in, it's like name it, claim it, speak it, you can
Yeah.
have it. And so it's like these things don't always align, but as you become a healthy adult, living in reality, I think you have to realize, like, no is okay. No is an okay word. Disappointment is going to happen. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
So you have to learn what the truth is, right? Because all those other,
correct.
philosophies sound nice, but reality is, and you learn it very early in life and
Yeah.
you continue to learn it as you get older, you will not
Yeah.
always get what you expect. It's so what disappointment is like in its very definition is like something has failed to fulfill your expectations or what you've hoped for. And so that in and of itself disproves this, you can get whatever you want, name it and claim it, the world is your oyster. Like
Yeah.
that is just a contradiction all up and through, right? And so, yeah, let's
Yeah.
talk about how we can get better. How can we improve our relationship with disappointment?
I think the same thing you said is learning to
Mhm.
accept it, but it may be learning to accept it in a healthy way. So, identifying what emotions come up for you when you are
Mhm.
disappointed, and working on not living in this like sort of black and white
Mhm.
mindset. So I'm disappointed, and then I maybe catastrophize, the disappointment or the
Mhm.
situation, which can lead to now you compounding on it, as opposed to saying, what happened, how do I feel about it, and what do I need to do to feel
Mhm.
better,
Yeah. So
you know?
first step is to accept it and also address
Yeah.
any catastrophizing that you might be putting on. So that little extra that you're,
Yeah.
making a, what they
That
say,
little
making a
razzle
mountain out of a
dazzle.
molehill type thing, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
making it bigger than it is. I think the next thing is to examine your expectations. Like, are you having
That's good.
realistic expectations? Are they too high, or even are they too low? Because it's as a part of the avoidance, it's I'm not gonna expect anything, or I'm not gonna get my hopes up. I'm just gonna, not want for anything
Ooh,
so
that's
that I don't experience
yeah.
disappointment.
That's that
Yeah.
protection, that
Yeah,
self-preservation mode.
self-preservation, but that comes with its own consequences as well. Like when you don't have
Yeah.
any expectations for anything, you won't take risks, right? You won't step out and try things. You won't experience what it is to be hopeful because having no expectations means you also have no hope that something good is going to come to you. But then are they too
Oh, well
high? I think a
said.
lot of times it's more too high than the setting it too low. And so adjust your
Yeah.
expectations, and look at, are they realistic? Does this make any sense for me to expect that, I'm
Right.
gonna make $1 million next week, like, and then get disappointed if I
Yeah.
don't? Or is it more
Yeah.
reasonable for me to say, like, let me start here. Let me expect that what I'm doing
Yeah.
is going to get me this, rather than this kind of high expectation. Because it's not to say don't dream big, and it's not to say don't get your hopes up. It's just saying,
Yeah.
are they realistic? Because you and I have probably come
Yeah.
across quite a many of people, including ourselves, who have had some
Yeah.
unrealistic
Yeah.
expectations, and then we get disappointed, and then we want to blame, whether
Yeah.
it's blame
Or
ourselves or we
or
want to blame
quit.
others.
Yeah. I mean, one of the ways I have seen this, even just in practice, is like working with couples, and I'm sure you have
Mm-hmm.
as well. You know, where couples get in it, and you hear, oftentimes you hear this one phrase is like, "I didn't know it was gonna be this hard,"
Yeah.
you know, and it's like,
Like, what
or
did you
I or we
think?
shouldn't be
Well,
fighting.
what did you think it was gonna be?
Yeah, y'all are from
Mhm.
two different, often like family
Right.
cultures or backgrounds and maybe belief
Mm-hmm.
systems, like whatever, but you got two different people coming together to combine the world. And so, and a lot of times, unfortunately, we don't always have good examples of what
Mm-hmm.
marriage looks like. And so we are, sometimes our, our expectations are measured up to like this false
Right.
reality,
Yeah, and so yeah, you
this,
definitely want to talk about expectations before you sign your
yeah,
life up to join someone like in holy matrimony, because yes, that is where a lot of it comes to pass, but it also comes every day in everyday interactions, right? Whether it's at work, whether it's
yeah,
with your children. Sometimes we have unrealistic expectations of them, where it's like you think your child's supposed to be the smartest and the best and the fastest and the greatest at everything, and they were eating glue when they was little. So just being mindful that you don't want to put your expectations on others if they are not realistic, but
yeah,
more importantly, you want to make sure
yeah,
that you are able to check in with yourself about them and be flexible and be willing to adjust them.
yeah.
What other ways is there anything else you can think of as far as like how we could get better?
Honestly, this is probably, I say we just have to learn to suffer better.
Okay, learn to
I
suffer
mean,
better.
I just don't think we know.
Okay,
Yeah, I just don't think we know how to
that's
suffer
true.
well as individuals, especially as
Yeah.
Christians too. I just don't think we do. We expect for things, the Bible literally says that there will be suffering, but that's not how we feel like it should be. But as individuals, whether you're, regardless of
Mhm.
your belief system, I don't think we suffer well. I don't think we take disappointment or any emotion that is not
Pleasant. Yeah.
happy.
Okay.
I don't think we,
Learning to
correct. I
suffer
don't think we
well.
take
So
it well.
disappointment falling under the category of suffering.
Ooh, it
Yeah.
can feel
Well,
like it
that'll preach
sometimes.
because definitely we haven't learned that, right? Just signing up, going through the
Yeah,
process of learning like suffering is a part of life and this is a form of suffering. On the scale of,
yeah,
high to low,
correct,
disappointment may be the lower
correct.
form of suffering. So if you can't get that well, how are you going to experience devastation or despair or grief or
Right,
any of these other like major
right.
kind of higher level intense emotions that fall under that umbrella of suffering if we can get the basics right? Like
Yeah,
this is the elementary level of
yeah,
suffering. So yeah, that's a really great point, like learning to suffer well. And one final point I want to make is that you don't want to allow disappointment to linger too long. So, like, not dwelling on it so that it doesn't start to spiral into maybe
mm-hmm.
depression or like apathy or like just hopelessness because you've experienced this discomfort or this pain, and then you keep thinking about it and you
Yeah,
keep ruminating on it and you keep on bringing it up and telling everybody about it, every day for a week. So like getting better at
yeah,
disappointment also looks like acknowledging it, being aware of it, accepting it, and then moving on. Like we don't have to,
yeah,
live in disappointment beyond the day that it happened, or beyond the hour that it
yeah,
happened for that matter. I think we
yeah,
make it last longer than it needs to be by dwelling on it, talking more about it,
yeah,
repeating it, calling somebody up to tell them, well, let me tell you what happened. Like,
yeah,
just
yeah,
process it, feel it, move on, and then, like, go do something else, do something positive
yeah,
or look at this is an opportunity that I can learn a lesson. I can reframe it. Maybe this isn't for me. This didn't happen
Yeah.
because it wasn't supposed to happen. This isn't what was meant for me. So
Yeah.
even that positive reframe is a kind of a way to start to come out of it rather than dwelling on it.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. For people like me
Mm-hmm.
that ruminate, that's hard. But we need
Yes.
people like you that say, babe, you've been in this
Right,
pit for a
right.
long
How long are
time.
we gonna talk
Like
about
to
this now?
help. So sometimes,
We gonna let it go.
how long,
Right.
I mean, let's move
Yeah.
forward. So, but I like the
Mm-hmm.
positive reframe because it's still your story, but you can take that and you can pivot and you can reframe that story. It doesn't have to ever leave and not be your story, but the
Yeah.
story can
Yeah.
change,
Finding the
right?
silver lining.
You know,
You can
yeah,
acknowledge, yeah, this happened, or I was disappointed. However, like add the but on there. But,
yeah,
right, or however,
yeah,
like don't just leave it at
and
this is
yeah,
my story. This is my sordid
because it's
tale,
not done.
right? of woe. No,
Yeah,
this is what
yeah,
happened. I didn't like it. I was hoping for something else, but dot dot dot. So
yeah,
yeah. So those are kind
yeah.
of, I think, some good ways to get better at disappointment. We kind of hit on why it's important, what it means, and why we have to learn to suffer well, right? And finding those
Yeah.
opportunities to cope so that we can come out of it and allow room for it in your life so that it's not just something to avoid or shy away from or run away from. So yeah, that's I think, where we can leave it for today. So we want to make sure that we continue
I love
to
it.
get better. We want to continue to make sure that we stretch ourselves and grow ourselves so that we can improve and mature emotionally, right? So yep.
Yeah. No, I love that. Let's continue to keep getting better so we can do better in order to be better.
Yeah,
Remember that?
that's our catchphrase. See, she
Gotta
got
bring
it
that back
today. We
in.
back on it. All right. Okay, y'all. Until next time, we will see you. Make sure
All
you
right.
like, subscribe, comment, and share, and continue to come back and see us at the I Get Better podcast.